Hello everybody and welcome back to Roscoe's Redneck Repairs. Today what we're going to do is we're going to take apart this old motor. So what this one was off that motor swap. This is the one that we determined was the bad motor. And go ahead and tear into it, see what spare parts I can take off of it, and see maybe just exactly why it wasn't working quite right. So first thing I'm going to do, make sure there's no gas in there. Done. Take and unplug that. There's a little bit of gas in there. Take and undo this bolt down here. There, like that. This. So that's an alright gas tank. It looks like it's in decent shape. No leaks or nothing except for this big massive hole on the top. I need a gas cap for. Which, well, I need a gas cap anyhow for the other one too. So we'll go ahead and make a 2-for order on that. Take off this air filter shroud here, which pull this right out of here. Go ahead and pull that off. Hey, that's a pretty long screw. Alright, make sure they catalog that over underways. Now, take this oil dipstick off of here.
Okay, pull that off there.
Pull that right on out. And, there is a little bit of oil in there, so we have to drain some of that out in a second. Once I get down to needing to move the motor all over the place where I'd be spilling it. Now we take this fan shroud out. Now this, with these motors, these fan shrouds are actually really more important than you might think. This is not just a safety item. These motors are air cooled. So if you saw the last video, I started it with the fan shroud off with that electric start and put the fan shroud right back on there. It does a couple things. It keeps the engine cool, air cooled like I said. Also there's a governor in there to keep that throttle the right speed. Well, if you don't have that on there, all this flywheel is going to be just blowing air all over the place and not where it needs to go. So you're not going to be able to hold the proper throttle level that you need to keep the motor running. Alright, now let's take a look, see at how this fan shroud comes off, or if I can get, I'm just kind of going at it a little bit more willy-nilly than probably should be, because I don't really care too much about putting this motor back together. Oh, that's loose. I'm going to go ahead and just pull that nut off of there. Whew. Pull that out. That's for your starter. And take and spin this around to this one here. That is definitely not an 8mm. There we go. Another one there. Alright. And 2 right there on the nose. Right up over top of the head. Now this, you can see here, whoop, there's the oil. There's fan blades here. Push that air right over here, right over top of the head. When we open that up, we'll be able to see a little better in there. Okay, so we gotta take these 2 off. I'm gonna go ahead and start using this because it sure is a lot easier, faster to do it this way. If you use power, then just use your hand. There's your fan shroud. Still in good shape. I mean, she's a little rusty, but she'll work for what she needs to do on the next motor if I ever come across another motor I need to use it on. There, all this. Okay, so this one is a little different than some of the other ones, because this is actually a straight up fan that just sits on top of the flywheel, which is then held in place by this piece here. Right, so now there's other motors where the flywheel and this fan are all one piece. So this one's been beat up a little bit because those are supposed to be all flat all the way across. It looks like it kind of got chewed up all the way around the edge there. So I would say this fan's really not going to do what needs to be done. So we'll go ahead and just toss it aside. Alright, ooh boy, she sure is pretty corroded there. Go ahead and pull this coil off here, get that out of the way so I can pull this flywheel off. It's gonna be little bitty. Okay, so now I got 6.5. Let's move this camera so y'all can see a little better. To right there. Now this is the coil. Now how this works is with centrifugal force. Of course, this thing's real seized up in there and tight, so I can't really spin it by hand like most good free spinning motors are. But what happens is this spins around. There's magnets on this side and this side of it that pass through and into this copper coil to make a spark or make an electrical charge. Sends it through to there, and this will be attached to the spark plug. Sends a spark, electrical charge through the spark plug into that combustion chamber, making the bang. All right, go ahead and pull this coil off. There. There. I said, think. And then we'll pull this ground wire out from underneath there. And there you have a nice, just a little rusty and corroded coil in there. So I'd say she's pretty well shot. Those are supposed to be real tight packed together, and they're getting a little loose, as you can see, possibly. See that separation there is not good. Also, with all that rust and corrosion on there, I'd say she's gonna head to the pile of scrap. Then we got the ground wire over here. We'll go ahead and undo this from there. So this is how that safety works. Again, with that coil, what you're doing effectively with the cable that's attached to this is when you pull on it, you're removing that ground and you're not shorting out the system, which this one's pretty well stuck to also. See if I can't pry it loose for y'all. Okay, so when it's in that position, you're free spinning and there's no brake on it, and it's able to spin around and you're not getting a short from here to there, so it's able to send that electrical charge through the wire and create combustion with the spark. You let that go, that then slows down the flywheel and grounds out your spark, your electrical charge in there. Alright, so, and that's the next thing we go ahead and take off, which is an 8mm. Go ahead and pop them screws out. Alright, so this is actually a pretty decent assembly here that's still together, all work in order and all that good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this as a spare part for another motor I may come across eventually. Who knows? Alright, looks like what I'm looking at now is going to take this muffler off, which is 10mm bolt on this side, just like that. And she got nice and stuck on the socket and ran away. So, there's that mount. And there's this mount right here that actually mounts into the head. Pretty near stuck on there, so we'll go ahead and, oh, there's the other one. That's always great. A little mechanical agitation to get the old one out. There we go. And just like that, your exhaust system is free. So this is all pressed together and real simple on that. Exhaust gas goes in there into this muffler. Now this muffler's got baffles in it to kind of smooth out the pulsation of all the exhaust gases, because like I said, this is a 4-stroke, so every fourth stroke is the exhaust stroke. And if you don't have this muffler on there, you'll have a really loud pulsing noise to it, as opposed to just nice and smooth out of this muffler. That's what them baffles inside of there do. And this muffler is actually in really good shape, so I'm going to keep this as well. Stick that over there with my air shroud. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and take this valve cover off. Well, go ahead and just pull the spark plug out of the way. And that is not what a spark plug is supposed to look like. That is quite salty. So I'll throw that one out. Alright, and now we're going to take this valve cover off. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. There. Okay. And there's still a little oil up there in the top, which is that is some thick, nasty looking oil up in there. So there's some water and nastiness that got mixed in there at one point. Gasket still looks okay. I mean, granted, you don't reuse this gasket anyway, but I'll keep this valve cover on me just in case I need another one. And there you have the head. Well, the valves, not the head. Push rod engine, right? So there's some little skinny little push rods on there. Push that for these valves over here to open and shut. Okay, so this is your exhaust, and this one over here is your intake. Go ahead and just take this whole head off. I believe I broke that bolt. Can't get on that one. With a 10mm deep well, I'll be able to get on there real easy. Yep, there we go. And just like that, 4 head bolts. Like that, like that. This one's still a little bit in there. And that is concerning. What I'm going to find inside of this motor. That's not supposed to do that. Should just pop right off. Or I'm going to have to use some mechanical agitation for it. Of course, I probably should have taken off this carburetor beforehand. I'll go ahead and do that now. Detach the springs, all that good stuff. Primer bulb is shot, but you can get new ones of those. That's a pretty decent air cleaner mount. Just needs to be cleaned up, so we'll go ahead and save that part. Okay. Go ahead and pull this carb off of here. This is, well, I'll show you what a carb is not supposed to look like on the inside, and this one would definitely need replacing if this motor would even fire. But that is just some minty stuff in there, nice and rusty. You know, I don't even know how. I think you just, this is what happens when you let a motor set for too long and get rained in and water in it and all that. So yeah, you can see just corroded, or there's all get out in there. So that is, this carburetor is junked now, so It's gonna land over there. So this back in here, you can see, this piece here is what attaches to the throttle. Now on most motors I've got a little extra bit to go along with that air that's going to flow through from here and hold it open to where it needs to be. So there's your governor right there, and that keeps the motor from overspinning and underspinning. Keeps it running right. Alright, so I had to jump up to a 3/8 drive on a 5/8 socket. Pull those off. Save these because I've got another motor in the works. It's got a couple broken valves and push rods and stuff. I don't think these push rods will work for it, but as long as these push rods are straight up and down, we'll be good, and these valves are alright. So there's that. Pull the push rods out. And, these actually look pretty good, nice and straight. Go ahead and wrap those up in paper towel. They're all covered in oil, as they should be, which is good. I'm going to take these springs off of here. And little keepers. Find the right spot to pop off with. There you go. And then there's another keeper on there. Take it. Push this valve spring down and over. It pops right off. And there I've got a decent valve spring keeper, keeping these all together. Pop that over. So now these springs are critical because what will happen, now not necessarily on this style motor, this is not an interference motor, but in your cars and your trucks, what they run are what they call interference motors. And if you lose a valve spring or something like that and it drops, and it comes down, that valve will actually hit the piston itself, and that's when the motor just then destroys itself, eats itself, and it gets all out of time, all out of whack, and the piston just gets shredded. So that's not a pretty sight at all. So, alright, now go ahead and pull this head off. See if we can do it without hitting it with a hammer. Probably not. Yeah, maybe. I got it loose. There we go. Pop the head off. That head gasket is junk. Along with the head is, that's some minty shit there. That's not supposed to be inside a motor. I'm not even sure what that is. I mean, it's rust, corrosion, whatnot. So there's the old valve. That's no good no more. So this head might be able to be salvaged. It looks like it's mostly just surface gunked on there. So go ahead, pull that out of there. And I'm gonna have to use a hammer to pop this other valve out because it's squeezed up in there. There we go. A couple of taps on your intake valve. And she still doesn't want to go. There we go. That's yeah. So now I let a motor sit for too long, I reckon. Because whew, that is just nasty up in there. Alright there. Yes. Wow. There was no way I was ever going to get that motor running. Not at all. And you take a look inside the cylinder here. Look down in there. That's supposed to be nice and smooth, you know, for your combustion chamber and all that. Which obviously is not a thing. And this is why I wasn't able to get it to spin over real well. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull this flywheel off, if I can. It's not too rusted on there. By taking a screwdriver, prying up on it like this. And yeah, that's not going to go that way. So we're going to take it all the way down and try and just a couple good hammer blows and she came a little bit loose. Okay, there's the flywheel. She was junk already, so I'm not too awful worried about that big chunk. And this right here, when you're doing this if you're pulling the flywheel off on an actual one you want to keep, you want to make sure you don't lose that little key there. Now this even has a little Briggs & Stratton emblem on it still. So it's the original from who knows when. Alright. Now, let's see here if we can take this sumbitch apart. By taking this part off this direction. Okay, so off camera there, did a little mechanical agitating with this here hammer, some good old panther pits, and I was able to get this pulley and bracket that holds your lawnmower blade on off of there. So now with that being pulled off, of course with all that mechanical agitation, I was actually able to get this clear too. Look at that, nice and purty and clean in there ish, kinda. Well, a whole lot better than it was anyhow. So now go ahead and take off these last two bolts. Now there was something I did forget to mention about, so this is the sump. That on the sump and on the head, you want to take these off in a circular, either a circular pattern and not completely unloosen them all at once, or do them diametrically opposed, so that way you don't warp the, you lessen the chance of warping your head or your sump. Now, obviously this being a junk motor, don't really care that much to worry about that, because most of this stuff's just going to the scrap pile anyway. What I'm really looking at is the all those valve springs, valve covers, the push rods, and all that good stuff, and possibly some of these internals if I can salvage them. So with that having been taken off, just take the sump right off. Nothing to it. And man, that is some nasty looking oil in there. There's supposed to be a gasket there, which there's pieces of a gasket on there and on here. So now with that sump off, we can look at the internal workings of this motor. So it sets up, actually this motor's set like this, but for purposes of this, we can set it up like that. Right about there for y'all. So you see this is a crankshaft, attaches the piston with the piston rod. See the piston rod right down in there. Okay. this here's your camshaft, right? And on there's the pulleys and whoo-hoo. Well, what's supposed to happen? So there's another reason why this motor, there's all sorts of reasons why this motor wasn't running. This is probably the reason why it didn't run to begin with. And why it got shelved or parked outside in a junk pile. That's supposed to be a total ring. And it's supposed to be attached with a key onto this crankshaft, which it is not. So what happens is, as this cylinder, as the piston gets pushed up and down, it then spins all this in here. So what it'll do, it runs the camshaft here, which pushes your valves up and down for either your exhaust or your intake, or both down for your compression stroke, right? And then this here, which is attached to your camshaft, the camshaft gear, is an oil splash. What that does, real simple, is when that spins, it's down here in the oil, in the sump, splashing oil up onto everything to keep everything lubricated. So there's your oil splash. Here's the camshaft. Obviously I've already pulled out the, so that actually looks in really good shape. Probably because it didn't run. That wasn't the part that broke. The part that broke was the ring gear on the crankshaft here. So we'll go ahead and set that over here. And then we got the push pins, right? That are, these are what these lobes here, they set on those, and as that camshaft comes around, it pushes it up or lets it fall down. So, and these are attached to the push rods. And you can see the nice little, just set right up in there. If I can, right there, see? Pushes that up and down. And that goes up into this valve lash, which will then push up and down on the valves to actually open and shut the valves for the required stroke. Alright, now I'm not going to be able to use I'm going to have to use a socket and a ratchet to get up in there, and I don't have time. Really should have worn gloves, but that's what Fast Orange is for. It'll wash. Take and pull these bolts out of here. No, that's not 10. If I can find the right socket. I'm going to guess an 8. Take and set it to loosen. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. These are not reverse thread bolts, because that would be annoying. And of course I do that anyhow. So there we go. Left. There. Alright. There. A little bit there. Break it loose. I should be able to get it with my hand. I'm going to pull the piston out, and I'm going to pull the piston out through the top. Especially now they got that cylinder wall cleaned out and all that rust and corrosion out of there. I'll be able to pull it out straight up through there and go a little bit more in detail on what the pistons actually look like and do. Okay, so those bolts are out. I'm going to go ahead and get that loose. So that's the bottom of the push rod, the connecting rod, piston rod. Yeah, that's the bottom of the piston rod that just came out there. Go ahead and send it up. And now, just give her a little, oh, of course, little tap. Nope. And we'll go ahead and use a punch and get a little leverage on it. because everything then pops into my way. And she's coming loose. It's not quite there. Go ahead and tap it up out of there. There we go. Just about got her. Say just about is just about, because this doesn't count yet. Go ahead and give her a couple more taps. Send her all the way. And there you have it. Of course, everything gets wedged up. Again, not recommended on a motor you want to save, because now I've probably done some damage to this crankcase and warped it out or something like that. There we go. Now, how did I manage that? There. So, come around here. That's your piston. Just a little fella. Now, if you ever look at a two-stroke motor on your weed eaters, it's even smaller. They're really funny looking. So this one is all gunked up here. And let's see if I can wipe this gunk off. Show you what's supposed to be there, and what's supposed to be a little bit looser than what they are the piston rings. So those that silver piece there, that's actually going to be a piston ring. That what that does is it makes up for your little gaps inside that cylinder wall, inside the cylinder, so you have a better seal when it comes up on that compression stroke to actually compress that gas and air mixture and make the power stroke for you. Right there, that's your connecting rod, or your piston rod. Nothing to it really. Feels like aluminum though. So this piston is not necessarily shot, but also I'm not going to bother keeping it, because odds of me coming across a motor that needs a new piston of this exact size and nothing else, and like not a complete total junk anyhow, is very odd, especially with these small engines. They're really actually fairly cheap. Once you start getting into catastrophic fails and just absolute seized up issues, it's cheaper just to buy than go through all this time and effort. You know, same with this crankshaft, it's bent, which may or may not have been my fault. That's all mushroomed out. That's my fault. So, but, and the inner workings, well, I guess there's not really inner workings of this. It's just what it is, and it's fairly simple. That's where your connecting rod goes, or your piston rod goes right there. And these are counterweights to make sure that the engine stays balanced while it's going up and down. And yeah, and that will then run everything you need. Out here is going to be your mower blade, or you know, if you have a generator, it's going to run your generator. It's going to run your pump for your pressure washer, whatever. Same basic idea on all motors. Small engine all the way up to your big V8s. Now obviously there's a little more technology of a V motor, but inline 6, for instance, a big old Cummins inline 6 got the same idea behind that crankshaft on there. You know, piston rod connects to there, counterweights all the way through. So, and in there is your crankcase. Aluminum crankcase. So, worth something at a scrapyard if you get enough of them. And, well, I reckon that's pretty near it. So, what I can figure, what I salvaged out of this, some springs, those dealy whoppers, push rods are good, and I The valves are junk, but I got a decent valve cover. So, yeah, we may be seeing some of these. I got a whole bunch of new bolts, though. Tell you what, you never have too many bolts, just in case, because you never know when you need a bolt for any sort of random thing when you're doing random redneck repairs. So, well, there you have it. Total breakdown of Briggs & Stratton 1-cylinder motor. I'm not really sure what the horsepower rating was on this one. It wasn't on the cover. Didn't really see any serial numbers either while we were going through here. So, honestly, I probably wouldn't have gone through all this effort if it wasn't for making a video. So, because the only parts that were really salvageable on this were that fan shroud over there, the muffler, the head I might be able to use. I don't know. Might be able to clean that up, put it through a parts washer, because it's, like I said, as easy as it was to get that cylinder cleaned out. This should be just fine going through a parts washer to get that old head gasket scraped off of there. Gas tank, and again, the push rods were really a good find there, being as they're straight and whatnot. So I should be able to put those in on another motor if I've got an issue I think might be a push rod, if I come across one. So, all right. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you next week.